Hi everyone. I'm going to go over diaphragmatic breathing. So your diaphragm is a dome-shaped muscle. It is at the base of your lungs, and it is really important to strengthen, especially for lifters. But over time, it's really important for anybody because over time, distorted posture from working out, from just everyday activity and aging too, our posture becomes a little bit distorted. And in addition to things like weight gain, we can get things like COPD, which COPD is when when the air can't be completely depleted from your lungs, and you have air is left inside your lungs, and so that diaphragm that's right at the base of your lungs, it starts to become weak and flattened. So diaphragmatic breathing is going to help strengthen your diaphragm. It will decrease the rate at which you're breathing too. So you can ultimately do more work by practicing diaphragmatic breathing. In weightlifting, however, it translates to building more strength. So you actually have 29 muscles throughout your core, which is a lot. So when you're lifting weight, you want to keep everything as tight as possible because it's kind of like a suspension bridge, right? All of those 29 muscles, and if they start to, if you have some of them in the wrong place, or if you are underutilizing any of them, you're not going to reach your fullest potential. The other thing to think about with diaphragmatic breathing, a kind of an analogy to help, is to think of your body as a cylindrical can, and if you are pushing out with your stomach like this, say that I'm a can, right? And this is me as a can, and I'm all full, right? And this is me with distorted posture, and I'm kind of like a bent can, right? So that bent can is not going to be able to hold as much weight as a full unopened can that's really utilizing all of that space. So let's go over diaphragmatic breathing. I'm gonna make sure you guys can see my table here. Okay, so I'm using this like it's a table. I mean, like it's a bench. You can lay on the floor and do this. I'm also going to show you a way that you can do these sitting. Ultimately, for lifters, you should be able to do this while you're standing because, I mean, that's what a squat is, right? And you should be practicing your diaphragmatic breathing in all of your throughout all of your training, in all of your competition stances. So let's go over diaphragmatic breathing. So I'm going to be breathing in through my nose, and I'm going to have one hand on my chest, and I'm going to have the other one right here, right where my diaphragm is, okay? And I'm going to slowly inhale, and I do not want the hand that's on my chest to move. And so my stomach should rise, and then I'm going to purse my lips for the exhale, and I'm going to push out. And as I push out, I'm going to visualize, and you'll see too, my diaphragm caving back in, like my abdomen is becoming hollow. But the whole time the chest should not move. Okay, so let's see it in action. All right, so hand on the chest, hand on my diaphragm, and I'm gonna breathe in and exhale. So hopefully you didn't see my chest move. I didn't feel it move. I only felt the hand on my stomach move. So I'll do it again. I'm gonna inhale through my nose and exhale. So the chest shouldn't have moved. You can also do this one seated. So again, hand on the diaphragm and hand on the chest. And another thing to note, so the reason why I have people start off laying down and doing this and not seated is because when you're laying down, especially on a hard surface, your body is completely flat. As long as you're not lying on memory foam that is curved for you, which makes it so that your diaphragm is actually pointed down towards your pelvic floor. So when you're bracing for a squat, you should be in a bracing position, which is going to be different than any other postural position. It's like I said, it's just like a can. It's like a rebarb rod. It's like it's just straight, okay? So completely straight when you are bracing. So that diaphragm is pointed down into the ribs. You don't have that. Try to visualize not having that natural curvature in your spine at all. So another way that you can practice diaphragmatic breathing is to put your hands on your hips, and well, you put your hands on your obliques, and it's right above your hip bone. And these bugs are getting me. And again, you're going to inhale through your nose, and you're going to exhale through pursed lips, and you're looking for your chest again to not move, and for your hands to expand laterally. So laterally just means to the side, okay? So I did a lot of talking before that. I don't think that was not the best I could have done. Let's go again. And you know what? Thinking about it that second time, I realized that my head was down a little bit too, and I was tucking my diaphragm more. So it really is, like, even still making a tutorial on how to do this, it can be hard to remember exactly how to do it. So another thing I wanted to go over is holding your breath in the squat. I'm going to get a citronella candle first. When do you use diaphragmatic breathing? If you are working on increasing your diaphragm because you're an endurance athlete and you want to be able to use less oxygen because your muscles need more oxygen, then I would, or if you are somebody that is trying to help out with your COPD, then I would suggest doing the diaphragmatic breathing drills that we did here, about 5 minutes to 2 to 3 times a day, and it'll be exhausting at first, but it will get easier. Just stick with it. And as far as powerlifters go, and Olympic weightlifters, when and I'll even talk about bodybuilders here. When we're taught to work out and exercise, initially we're taught you inhale on the up, you exhale on the down, right? So we're inhaling, exhaling, which is great for lighter weights, but that's not true for heavier lifts, because we need to make that bridge as optimal as possible to hold as much weight as possible, right? So, oh gosh. So when we're not taking proper diaphragmatic breaths, what ends up happening is our neck and our chest muscles end up becoming involved in compensating for the lack of strength in the core, because it needs to be made up for somewhere. So there is just so much emphasis on diaphragmatic breaths and making sure that you have that cylindrical bracing posture for the squat. When we talk about breathing during the squat too, it's not just the diaphragmatic breath. When you talk about lifting heavy, we're doing something called a Valsava maneuver, where you take your breath before the squat, and then you hold your breath, that diaphragmatic breath, with your dome-shaped diaphragm pointed down towards your pelvic floor, right? And your chest doesn't rise when you take that inhale. And you're holding that breath, and you're going down, and you're holding the breath, and then as you're coming up, you're kind of psst. You might hear a psst sound or a grunt when somebody is really exerting themselves, or you might hear no noise at all. But it's important to not hold your breath for more than a few seconds. If you, it is known to increase your systolic blood pressure, so just know that too. But the intention of that is to keep that diaphragm and keep the bracing and everything as solid as possible so that you can lift up the weight optimally and lift up as much as possible. I mean, if you think about it, if you think about me laying there and how that hollows out, even though that's a breathing drill and I'm thinking about that and I'm trying to do that, it's really only exaggerating what my body is naturally doing when I'm diaphragmatic breathing. So I hope you got something out of this. And if you liked it, let me know. And if you didn't, let me know. And be happy and stay motivated.